Hello everyone. Today I will recap the movie The Equalizer 3. Please watch it with me. The movie begins in Italy, where crime boss Lorenzo and his son arrive at a remote winery. They then suddenly discover the corpses of many of his subordinates lying around. Realizing that he is facing a big threat, Lorenzo immediately becomes alert, equips his gun, and goes down to the basement. There, he sees two of his subordinates pointing guns at a tall man. Despite the dangerous situation, but Robert calmly wipes the wine bottle. Although Lorenzo does not know who Robert is, he still asks Robert's purpose what to do there. Robert only answers that he wants to take back something that does not belong to Lorenzo. Although Lorenzo was impressed with Robert for being able to track him down, he naturally could not let Robert achieve his goal and survive to leave. Robert then sets a 9-second countdown timer, but Lorenzo still does not realize the approaching danger, and orders his subordinates to attack him. In the next second, he used the hand of another of Lorenzo's subordinates to shoot the man in front of him, and then shot the man next to him. Finally, he pointed the gun at the man's eyes, and shot Lorenzo in the stomach. Lorenzo tried to crawl to the exit, but could not escape Robert. This was the price to pay for looking down on an agent. Then, Robert took the keys from Lorenzo's belt, and after a while, he went out with a backpack full of money on his shoulder. Seeing the boy in the car, he told him to sit still. Although the boy was young and ignorant, it was a mistake on his part. When he just turned away, the boy pulled out a gun and shot him in the back. He immediately turned around, fired a few shots into the air, scaring the boy, leaving the gun behind and quickly running away. Despite being injured, Robert still decided to take the ferry to return to his hometown. Robert fainted as soon as he reached a coastal town. Fortunately, a local police officer named Gio discovered him and immediately took him to Dr. Enzo for treatment. Here, Gio also helps the doctor bandage Robert's wound. Dr. Enzo tells Gio that if anyone asks about Robert's condition, he should say that Robert fell. When Robert wakes up, he finds himself in the town of Altamonte, but he feels awkward when the doctor asks if they saved a good person or a bad person. Robert finally replies that he doesn't know. Seeing Robert's attitude, Dr. Enzo feels somewhat reassured. Enzo carefully monitors Robert's recovery for the next few days. He also finds a temporary place for him to stay, since his injury is quite serious and he will need time to rest. Then, Robert decides to walk around town and stops at a local cafe. Here, service person brings him a cup of specialty coffee, even though he ordered tea. She insists that Robert will quickly like it. At this time, police officer Gio also arrives at the cafe with his wife and daughter, Gabby. Seeing Gio went over to chat and assured him that everyone in town was nice. Gio returned the car keys to him and insisted that had not snooped through his bag. After returning home, Robert anonymously called the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and asked to speak to Emma, a young agent. He began to tell her about Lorenzo's winery. In fact, it was a secret warehouse used to store drug jihad, a special drug used by IS terrorists before going into battle. These packages of drugs were hidden in bottles of wine smuggled from the Middle East and were being stored in Lorenzo's villa. He also provided information about the location of Lorenzo's money. After reviewing Robert's call, Emma led a team of CIA agents to the island and broke up a major drug ring. The next day, Robert continued to walk around town and began to get to know some of the people there. One day, he discovered a group of thugs coming to the market to cause trouble, wanting to collect protection money from the people. When they failed to achieve their goal, the group beat up the fish stall owner and threatened to come back the following week to demand the money. In addition, the crime lord Vincent very liked this beach town of Altamonte, so he wants to buy it to build a resort with many big casinos. However, the locals do not agree with his plan. During a negotiation with the couple, they refuse to sign the contract. In order to terrorize and warn everyone in the town, Vincent brutally throws their father, who is in a wheelchair, out of the window. The next day, when Robert goes to the fish shop to buy fish, the kind fishmonger named Angelo does not take the money, because he knows that Robert is Enzo's friend and a newcomer. Not only Angelo, the locals are friendly and kind. This makes Robert think about a peaceful life. He feels that it is time to let go of the past and realize that this might be where he belongs. However, life is not like a dream. Evil still appears and haunts him constantly. Vincent are impatient to carry out his plan, to turn the town of Altamonte into a commercial center. He sent his younger brother Marco to threaten and oppress the people. Then, Marco burned down Angelo's fish shop. The people in the town could do nothing, but helplessly watch as they destroyed the place. Robert witnessed everything, and understood that it was not just a normal fish shop, but also a place where Angelo has been with all his life. Angelo, The shop owner was very indignant. Meanwhile, the arsonists calmly smoked and relaxed, not knowing that they had caught Robert's eye. Afterwards, together with other people, Robert helped clean up the place. At the police station, Gio reviewed the video footage of the fire and began an investigation into the black van that had intentionally burned down Angela's shop. He immediately called his superiors to report it. On a day like any other, when Robert was enjoying a peaceful moment at the cafe, Emma finally found him. She asked Robert how he got the exact information about Lorenzo's business. Robert only gave a vague answer. What was more surprising was that Emma knew his name. While Gio was going to school to pick up his daughter Gabby, he suddenly received a strange call informing him that another officer had picked up Gabby earlier. Gio rushed home to find his wife and daughter, but found that they had been captured by Marco and his gang in retaliation for investigation of the fish shop fire. Marco attacked Gio from behind and beat him brutally. Marco also revealed that Joe's superior had accepted bribes from them. Before leaving, Marco pointed a gun at Gabby's head, threatening to harm his family if he continued to interfere with their business. Robert returned home to find Gio, the policeman who had saved him, in a miserable state. Gio had just come out of Dr. Enzo's room, all bandaged up. He went into the room to ask Enzo what had happened. Enzo explained that the situation was caused by a mafia crime organization called Camorra. They were trying to spread fear among the entire population and take away the peace of this small town. Everyone here hated the mafia boss, Vincent, but they didn't dare to fight back. Instead, they just helped each other heal their wounds. Although he was very upset, Robert decided not to interfere further, and only suggested that Emma investigate Vincent's organization. However, what Emma wondered most was why Robert shared information with a new agent like her, instead of an experienced one. He just smiled and gently said that he was an ordinary but dedicated person. He also said that the reason he contacted her would be revealed later. First, she should focus on helping the people with this investigation, as Vincent may be involved in the drug trafficking at Lorenzo's winery. That evening, Joe's family went to a restaurant for dinner. Their cozy atmosphere was broken by Marco. He kept threatening Gio, forcing him to go to Somalia to do a mission for him. He hugged her daughter, worried and not daring to react. Sitting nearby, Robert stared at Marco. He noticed this and came to Robert's place, proceeded to show his rudeness and arrogance, warning Robert not to interfere if he did not want to be in danger. However, Robert was not angry, only advised them to find another place to operate, because Robert really loved Altamonte and its people. This only caused him and his subordinates to constantly laugh and mock Robert. To teach Marco a lesson, Robert took control of his hand, pressed hard on the median nerve, causing a lot of pain and forcing him to obey Robert's orders to ask his men to leave. Robert also asked him to leave his gun before letting him go in disgrace. Gio was shocked to see Robert calmly continuing his dinner in the restaurant. Meanwhile, Marco, despite having just been taught a painful lesson, did not feel remorseful and instead summoned his men to take revenge on Robert. Suddenly, one of Marco's men drove straight towards him, but in fact the driver was killed by Robert immediately afterwards. He used a bottle of wine to defeat two of Marco's henchmen. When Marco was scared and pulled out a knife, but Marco was no match for he. He easily broke Marco's arm, and then used Marco's own knife to stab Marco in the throat, ending his life. The next morning, the police arrived at the scene and found several packages of jihadist drugs inside the car. This confirmed Robert's suspicions. Associate Frank called Emma to discuss the train station bombing. They discovered that the proceeds from drug trafficking between gangs were being used for terrorist activities. Emma immediately decides to gather more information and goes to the local police chief, reporter, to investigate drug-related crimes and terrorism. Initially, he pretends to cooperate, but out of 4 files, he only allows Emma to meet one person. Through interrogation, Emma gets information about the drug location, and a task force is immediately sent there. When they break in, they find out that it is just a small gang, unrelated to Vincent's organization. Meanwhile, reporter is attending Marco's funeral and informs Vincent that the American CIA has approached their area of operation. He advises Vincent to stop all activities before Emma can find out anything. However, Vincent, grieving over his younger brother's death, says that he will handle Emma himself and asks the reporter to focus on finding the culprit who killed Marco. Seeing the reporter's disrespectful attitude, Vincent decided to cut off one of his hands as a cruel warning, emphasizing that next time it would not only be a hand, but also a head. The next day, female agent Emma walking towards her car when she suddenly received a call from Robert. She stopped to talk to him. Robert informed her that her investigation was wrong, It was not the terrorists, but the boss Vincent, who was the threat. Unexpectedly, this call saved her life, as a huge explosion in her car happened shortly after, killing many people nearby. Emma was thrown far away and seriously injured. The bomber in her car was Vincent. She was immediately taken to the hospital for treatment. Here, her partner Frank reassured Emma to rest assured he would continue to handle the rest of her work. That night, Vincent mobilized all his forces to the small town of Altamonte. He continuously tortured Gio and threatened the people to reveal who murdered Marco. In the face of everyone's silence, he shot Gio in one ear and threatened to kill Joe's wife and children. Seeing that Vincent was not just talking, was Robert forced to step forward, frankly admitting that he killed Marco. When Robert revealed himself this time, it was clear that he was ready to sacrifice his life in exchange for peace for the town and its gentle people. However, Vincent wanted to kill him publicly in front of everyone. When Vincent was about to pull the trigger to kill him, Enzo pulled out his shotgun, fired a shot into the air, and then aimed straight at Vincent. This action gave everyone strength. All the residents here took out their phones and started live streaming to show the world the true faces of Vincent. In the face of everyone's solidarity, Vincent was angry but could do nothing, and in the end could only reluctantly leave before the CIA arrived. When he returned to the mansion, Vincent did not give up his revenge and began planning to attack the town of Altamonte the next day. At this time, Vincent's underlings are speculating about Robert's identity and did not understand why a stranger from another place dared to confront such Vincent, a powerful mafia empire, and they knew absolutely nothing about his past. While everyone was celebrating the Virgin Mary, Robert secretly carried out his plan. At this time, Vincent had fallen asleep, but his subordinates were still standing guard outside the mansion. Robert broke into Vincent's house and killed all his subordinates. After he woke up, he did not know that he was the only one alive in the house. He saw a body of a subordinate falling from the ceiling. Panicking, Vincent looked for a gun and called his men, but no one answered because they were all killed. Vincent took the gun and walked around the house, but only saw the cold bodies of his subordinates. At this moment, he felt scared, his limbs trembled, and he fell to the ground. Even a famous mafia boss like Vincent panicked and shot wildly. Finally, when he ran out of bullets, he tried to run away, but was knocked down by Robert. After that, Robert forced him to swallow a large amount of opium, making him suffer the pain of addicts before he died, as a cruel punishment for the one who spread White Death throughout southern Italy. He was in a state of drug shock, his body exhausted. At this time, Robert untied Vincent. He tried to escape to the street, but Robert still followed slowly, like a ghost. Finally, in a panic, he was hit by a car. He tried to crawl on the ground. He could not imagine that, in his final moments, a gang boss like him would struggle in panic and helplessness. In the end, he had to die in a dingy alley. At the same time, the local Thanksgiving celebration ended with a brilliant fireworks display in the small town's night sky. The next day, the television reported that many of Vincent's accomplices had been arrested. Robert visited Emma in the hospital, carrying a bag full of money. He explained the real reason he had come to southern Italy. He had come to retrieve the pension that Lorenzo had stolen from Dyer, an old man he used to drive when he worked as a taxi driver. Robert's initial mission was to deal with a group of technology thieves of Lorenzo, but he ended up facing a dangerous Italian mafia organization of Vincent. Robert asked Emma to help him complete the mission by returning a bag containing more than $360,000 in pension funds to Dyer. After recovering, Emma traveled to Boston to deliver the money to Dyer. They were delighted and touched that they no longer had to sell their house. They thanked Emma and wondered why she helped a stranger. Emma said it was a good question and returned to work at the CIA, and thanks to her help in solving a major drug ring, she was also promoted. One day, Emma received a package. Inside was her mother's notebook, and a note from Robert said that her mother would have been proud if she. As it turns out, she was the daughter of Susan, a close friend of Robert's, who passed away in the previous film. This made Emma understand why Robert had contacted her. Currently, Robert decided to stay in this small town of Altamonte to enjoy a peaceful and happy life with the people.